guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Cristina. I am doing a video that I've been wanting to do for so long, ever since I saw this type of video by Adrienne Malone, which I'll put a photo of her here just in case you don't know who she is. And Adrienne is just so special to me because she was one of the first times that I felt like I saw myself on television. She was on the Cheetah Girls and she was a proud Latina, and I just remember being so happy seeing another Latina on screen. So I will link her video down below if you're interested in watching hers, because a lot of the questions in this video come from that, and then I added a bit more as well. So the first question is, explain your heritage. Both of my parents are from Ecuador, so I'm 100% Ecuadorian, but I was born in the US. So I would consider myself Ecuadorian American. I'm first generation, which I'm super proud of. Did you speak Spanish growing up? Yes, I am really proud to say that I did speak Spanish growing up. I know that that's a different experience for everyone for many different reasons, but my parents were very strict with me speaking Spanish. But for me particularly, Spanish was my first language. So growing up until I was probably 4 or 5, when you start going into preschool, kindergarten, is when I first was introduced to English. So that was definitely a challenge growing up. I did ESL, so English as a second language. And now I would say today English is my primary language. Throughout the years, my relationship with speaking Spanish has changed. And I think that just comes with like the experience of growing up. So I would say I spoke Spanish, then learned English in school. And by 4th, 5th grade, I like completely stopped speaking Spanish at home. And I just wanted to speak English. I wanted to assimilate so badly, and I just didn't want to speak Spanish. And I would still have to speak Spanish like with extended family members and so on, but like my primary home, like at home, I would just respond in English. So it was a very much like Spanglish situation. And then once I got to college, I realized that there's other Latinas out there and I could speak Spanish to communicate with friends and so on. And then I would say like throughout the years until now, I've definitely made a priority to be able to speak Spanish more. I find it so nice to be able to have a second language to connect with people from different cultures and different countries. The next question is, were you friends with Latinas? Essentially, as a first-gen Latina, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and the answer is no, I did not grow up with Latinas. And for me, I didn't know how that would shape my life or my experiences and so on. So growing up, I didn't have any Latina friends. I didn't have cousins my age that were Latina, so it's not like I had anyone around me. And that I feel like definitely affected the way I grew up. I didn't have anyone to relate to with the things that comes with being Latina, having strict parents, not having sleepovers, so on. All my friends like did not understand that, and I also didn't understand it. I didn't understand why I had to be the only one going through these things. So it was definitely a struggle growing up not having other Latinas around me, but I also feel like I didn't really have the opportunities that we have now, like social media, to connect with other Latinas. So I always say that if you're in this situation right now, you feel like you're in a neighborhood that you don't see the same culture around you, that I would totally lean to social media to connect. So like I said, growing up I didn't have Latina friends, but I can proudly say that today I have a huge group of Latinas, and my first memory of becoming friends with other Latinas was actually in college. So that was a whole journey of like, once I entered college, I was exposed to so much more diversity, and I feel like I thrived in that. Did your family love to celebrate? I didn't think of this as a Latino thing or Hispanic thing, but now growing up I realize that I guess it is. But yes, every weekend my family would always get together and we would have barbecues, we'd have family get-togethers, we would have the living room turned into a dance floor and everyone's dancing at some point. My mom always says it's not a party if you're not dancing. So yeah, my parents love to celebrate. We've always had like get-togethers in my family house in the backyard. We loved barbecues, so barbecues was like every weekend in the summertime. But growing up, that was also a struggle because every weekend I wanted to hang out with friends. I wanted to do what everyone else was doing at my age, but that wasn't really allowed because I always had to be with family. Did you have a quinceañera? This is a super interesting question, and this just really goes to show like the type of like, I don't know, negativity I had to Latin culture growing up, or just also like pushing that identity away. And I had a sweet 16. I refused to have a sweet quinceañera, but technically I did have my party when I was 15, and we did have a few quinceañera traditions built into like my sweet 16 party. But I was very persistent in wanting a sweet 16, not a quinceañera, because no one else around me was having quinceañeras. Well, it's so different from my friend who grew up in the city, who grew up in Manhattan, and she's like, everyone had quinceañeras. I was going to so many quinceañeras. I was learning so many dance routines and like doing the choreography, and for me, I was the only one that I know in my school who did that. So it was kind of really frustrating at the time. I hated that feeling of being like the only one or being different and like having to explain things to people, because for me it was also like the first time I was going through it. So for me, I was like, can we not do this? Like, can we just have a sweet 16 party? Were you always comfortable with your Latin identity? Oh my gosh, this I feel like is a long discussion that I love to have actually. So I've spoken about this experience with so many people and friends who are willing to listen. But no, I did not always feel comfortable being Latina. I wasn't proud to be Latina. I felt like my whole life I was kind of pushing that side away from me and kind of like downplaying that and never really showing up and being like my true self. I feel like most of my childhood, all the way up until right before college, I didn't really embrace being Latina. I wasn't like super proud of it. It was something that felt uncomfortable. I felt very different. Again, being the only one in your environment and not being able to lean on a friend or someone who's going through the same thing, it was really, really difficult. Yeah, I think I started embracing being Latina in college. Once I got to college, I just somehow gravitated towards like the international group of students, and a lot of them were from Spanish-speaking countries, and that's where I started exploring that side of me and being able to really embrace being Latina. And then I would say even after college, that's even increased so much more. And when I first would speak about this, I felt so embarrassed saying that I wasn't proud to be Latina or I didn't want to speak Spanish and so on. But as I've connected with other women who are also first gen, who grew up in a predominantly white areas, or just an area that you were the only one, I'm definitely a minority, then I realized they had the same experiences. What were the struggles of growing up as a Latina? I think the main struggles was just having really strict parents. My parents did not let me do the things that everyone else was accustomed to doing, like sleepovers or going out with friends late at night. Things like that were like not allowed, especially because they were immigrants. So coming from like such a, I don't know, traditional, I guess, like Latin culture to like being in an American culture where there's a little bit more freedom and kids are considered adults at 18, like things like that was not like a thing in my household. So I think for me that was the main struggle, but I would definitely say growing up there wasn't as much representation in mainstream media as there is now. So growing up, you know, Bad Bunny wasn't a top artist. No one really knew what reggaeton was, and people weren't listening to it in mainstream media. And it's so different from now. Like now I look around and I'm like, wow, people are really embracing the Latin culture, and I really hope it's not just a trendy thing that's just coming by and then we would go back to not embracing it. I really hope it's here to stay, and I'm really excited that now there are eyes on our culture. We are the largest minority in the US, so I'm so glad that there are now eyes on us and people are really paying attention to Latinos. All right, we're getting towards the end. This is the last question. It's, what does Latina pride mean to you? So this question's a bit hard to answer, but I would say Latina pride to me just means being there for one another. I think it's so cool that whenever I go out and I meet a new person, I found out they're Latino or Latina, it's like an immediate connection you get. So I think for me, it just means being active in the community, being there for one another, and just helping each other out. I think whenever there's an opportunity to help out another Latino or Latina, I will always take it and make an effort to do that. So whether it's at work or just like personally, everyday, day-to-day basis, like supporting Latino business, doing stuff like that, actively engaging in the community, I think is really what Latina pride means to me. All right guys, so those are all the questions I put together, and I hope I got to share a little bit more about my experience with you guys. And I know that there's so much more to tell. This is just kind of like the start, but I wanted to open up the conversation and yeah, just connect with anyone else that has had similar experiences or growing up in the US as a first gen. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions or you want to comment or something, please leave it down below and I'll be sure to answer. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.